Julian and I both really enjoyed the combo piece you did with Joe Smith. And it kind of goes back to that September meeting of all the coaches in Chicago. And they kind of got called a little bit under the carpet in terms of the way that they're or have been speaking to officials on the ice. And they showed a bunch of clips of F-bombs and some great quotes in there from the DeBoers and some great stuff in there. We would encourage our listeners to check it out. What was your biggest takeaway from writing the "Shut the Bleep Up" column today?
Yeah, that the coaches actually enjoyed it. Like Pete DeBoer loved when I was talking to him, just giving it to Paul Maurice for being the star of the show. And Paul Maurice retorted the other day that Pete's full of shit, that he was not the star of the show, that Rick Bowness and a couple others were as well. But look, I mean, I think that the league tried to do it in a very lighthearted, tongue-in-cheek type of way. But there was no doubt that the message was sent to the coaches that this is not the image that you want and not the image that the league wants. Now, I know that the commenters on the story are saying, well, how about this? Just deal with your officiating problem right now. But I think the other part of it is, and there was actually one comment that I thought was perfect on there, is they said, you know how like little kids emulate players that they want to be when they grow up and be in the NHL? You know, when even youth coaches and other coaches see coaches going absolutely bonkers on officiating, this is a big problem on why maybe there are that officials at youth levels and lower levels of hockey are really abused during games from parents. It's like everybody feels licensed that you can just go right after them. So again, there's multiple ways that you can look at this story. But, the one thing I want to make very clear is that this was not 100% like the real reason that the coaches were summoned to Chicago for this meeting, but it was just sort of a lighthearted way to end the meeting and just sort of tell everybody, look, let's calm things down. And I think actually in the first week of the season, and I talked to a couple referees this week, that it feels like coaches have gotten that message. Now, how long will that last in the heat of battle with guys like Paul Maurice and Rod Brindamore? I mean, we saw John Cooper lost it last night. So, I mean, there's a lot of pressure on these coaches, and sometimes when you're heat of it and you feel like your team was egreged against by an official, you're just going to let them know.
What about if the league institutes harsher fines or harsher penalties for coaches who get on at refs?
I think that is something. I mean, we've seen Rod Brindamore and some others get fined. I don't think that they want to throw any repercussions here. I think that it was more of just a really, healthy message to just say, hey, let's show you a video of what you look like. And do you want even your kids to see you like that? I mean, John Cooper was talking to my colleague Joe Smith last year about the fact that, his video coach basically had him, filmed him during a game and just had him watch himself. And sometimes you just don't realize what you look like during games. And we all know in today's TV world that anytime anything happens, goal, disallowed goal, a close play, a turnover, they immediately pan to the bench and show the coach. And I think that was really the message that the league tried to do. So I don't think they wanted to do it in a threatening way where they think that this is some sort of epidemic problem. But I think that they, by threatening them with all sorts of fines and suspensions and things like that, I think it was more just, try a healthy way to just say, hey, look, let's tone it down. This isn't good for anybody.
I watched this video this week. It was a really old game. I think it was between the Jets and in Chicago as well. There's this random play that happens in overtime. There's like a little scrum in the middle of the net, and someone seems like they throw the puck in the net, and it never crosses the line. And there's a review, and when it's gets ruled in favor of Winnipeg, Daryl Sutter comes from the bench and walks along the ice to the refs, and there's a whole bunch of players in that scrum too, but he's walking onto the ice to try to give the referees a piece of his mind. I'll say this, not trying to I'm not trying to pick a side in all of this, but I'll say we have come a very long way from coaches leaving the bench to talk to referees in situations like that.
Yeah, wasn't it Tom Webster? There was somebody with the Kings.
I forget his name.
Ago. Yeah, well, I'm talking in the. I remember the Kings coach throwing. This is before my time, but throwing
with a stick.
Yeah, at a referee.
Tom Webster, absolutely.
Yeah, it was Tom Webster. And actually, I probably should have thrown that in the story, but yeah, I mean, there are. We definitely don't see that anymore. And look, I covered Brian Murray in Florida, both as a coach and a GM. Ian, I know you know Brian really well. Fiery guy. Yeah. And he, when, I mean, one of the big reasons why GMs can't go to the refs room anymore, or by former GMs like Brian Murray. I mean, this is not like a new problem. The difference now is the cameras are always on you. And I think that's what they're trying to get, is try to stop these viral moments from going all over the map.
I think, was it Rob Fatorik who threw a bench? Do you remember this?
I remember that.
Yeah. When it was Jersey or LA? It was
New Jersey.
I think it was New Jersey.
Yeah,
he took the bench and he threw it out.
Just wooden bench getting thrown onto the ice.
Yeah. Well, it's like Wally Backman in the minors when he absolutely went crazy and threw. What was he doing? He was like, absolutely just throwing the dirt onto home plate and putting every sort of piece of equipment out there and throwing it on the field. I mean, look, managers, coaches against officials have been for the, combative for the history of time. But I do think a lot of this is also on the refs too. I mean, back in the day, you could get into it with a referee and you'd patch things up. And I think that a lot of times they feel that the referees aren't very communicative, also have a quick trigger in terms of yelling, and also hold grudges. I mean, they're human beings, and it seems sometimes to filter into game to game to game. So I think that both sides here could probably have a healthy relationship and make the relationship better.